Waste. The word cut through the air, sharp and familiar. I ignored it, focusing instead on the heavy stone lock in my hands. I was at the martial arts training grounds, the same place I spent every morning. Around me, the other disciples of the Lin family watched with sneers on their faces. "Look at that loser practicing again," one of them mocked. "A born failure. No matter how hard he trains, it's useless." "Exactly," another chimed in. "He can't even break through the body refining stage to become a true martial artist. What's the point of having high physical strength if you have no internal power?" I kept my grip tight. Next month was the annual family competition. I had finished dead last for 3 years straight. If I didn't break through this year, the clan would kick me out onto the streets. "Don't be so harsh," a skinny, rat-faced teenager said, though his eyes were full of malice. "Lin Yuan just has a weak constitution. Even if he can't cultivate, he can still manage the family businesses and provide resources for us." I acted like I couldn't hear them. I lifted the stone lock one last time before dropping it with a heavy thud. My body was at the absolute peak of body refining, but my constitution acted like a wall I couldn't climb. I looked around at my so-called kin. Some shared my blood, yet I felt no warmth from them. Only disdain, ridicule, and cold indifference. Without a word, I turned and walked away. "Look at him act all tough," a girl in a green dress spat at my back. What a joke. I didn't blink. I'd been hearing this for over 10 years. I was used to it. I made my way to a small, secluded courtyard in the eastern corner of the Lin estate. As I approached the gate, I took a deep breath and forced a smile onto my face. "Sister Yin, I'm home," I called out. In the courtyard, a woman stood by a flower bed. She wore a white dress and moved with a grace that felt otherworldly, like a fairy who had wandered into the mortal realm. She was watering the plants, but she turned the moment she heard my voice. "You're back, Xiao Yuan," Yin said, her smile instantly washing away my frustration. "Are you hungry? There are pastries in the kitchen. Go eat, and I'll start on dinner in a bit." I looked at her beautiful face, and my heart skipped a beat. Ever since my parents went missing 10 years ago, she was the one who had raised me. We had relied on each other for a decade. I was 16 now, and it was hard to ignore the feelings blooming in my chest whenever I saw her. "Okay," I muttered, pushing down the butterflies in my stomach. I grabbed a pastry and sat on the porch, watching her water the flowers. My mind wandered back to my childhood. My mother used to stand exactly where Sister Yin was standing. Now, my parents were gone, their fate unknown, all because they had left to find a way to fix my stagnant cultivation. My eyes grew hot and blurry. Suddenly, I felt a pair of warm arms wrap around me. I leaned back into Yun's embrace and grabbed her sleeves. "Sister Yun," I whispered, "it's been 10 years. Do you think they're—" "Don't say it," she interrupted softly, hugging me tighter. "Your parents are strong. They're just delayed. They'll come back when they can. Don't overthink it." "It's my fault," I said, my voice thick with guilt. "If it wasn't for me, they never would have left." "Xiao Yuan, I won't let you think like that," she said firmly. She pulled back and patted my back. "Now, enough of that. I'm making your favorite today, braised fish." The next morning, I was back at the training grounds. Rain or shine, I never missed a day. After hours of strength training and basic sword forms, I pulled out several heavy iron blocks. I strapped them to my legs and prepared for my daily run. Every day, I ran 50 kilometers with weights. I started years ago with 10 pounds. Today, I was carrying 100. "Is that the Lin family loser?" people whispered as I ran through the city streets. "Yeah, he thinks running will make him a martial artist. Without origin power, he's just a target." I didn't care. The world might see me as trash, I thought, but I won't let the flame of my martial path go out. By the time I reached the base of Baimo Mountain, I was drenched in sweat. I checked my pulse. My physical strength was approaching the power of 2 bulls. Most geniuses at the peak of body refining only had the strength of 1 bull. Even a 1-star martial artist without using techniques only had the strength of 1 bull. Physically, I was a freak of nature. As I walked along a forest path to cool down, a strange, rhythmic sound caught my ear. It was a woman's moan, coming from a nearby thicket. It sounded familiar. Curiosity got the better of me. I crept toward the sound and parted the tall reeds. My breath hitched. 2 people were on the grass, their clothes in disarray, locked in a heated embrace. I recognized them instantly. One was my eldest cousin, Lin Cheng. The other was Hu Mei, the great elder's young concubine. My jaw nearly dropped. Lin Cheng was insane. If the great elder found out his nephew was sleeping with his woman, not even the clan head could save him. Part of me wanted to go straight to the elders and report them. Lin Cheng was one of my biggest bullies. The only reason he hadn't physically beaten me was because the clan leadership seemed strangely afraid of Nangong Yun. They had warned the juniors not to touch me, but they couldn't stop the verbal abuse. No, I thought, pulling back. If I reveal this, it shames the whole family. Grandpa loves his reputation too much. I tried to back away quietly, but Lin Cheng was an 8-star martial artist. His senses were sharp. "Who's there?" he roared. I didn't wait. I turned and bolted. "Kill him." I heard Hu Mei scream. "If he talks, we're dead." I heard the brush crashing behind me. Lin Cheng was coming fast, throwing on a robe as he ran. I fumbled with the straps on my legs, kicking off the 100-pound weights. Without the burden, my speed exploded. I was moving faster than an early-stage martial artist, but Lin Cheng was an 8-star. He was gaining. We tore through the woods for 15 minutes. My lungs burned. I looked back. He was only 20 meters away, his face twisted in a murderous snarl. Then I looked ahead and froze. In my panic, I had lost my way. I was standing at the edge of the Mizong woods. Thick, eerie white fog rolled between the trees like a living shroud. It was a place of death. I stood there, trapped between a killer and the abyss, feeling the cold breath of the forest on my neck. I knew there was no escape. I stood at the edge of the Mizong woods, the fog licking at my heels like a burial shroud. "Lin Yu, you piece of trash. I didn't think it would be you," a voice sneered. I turned to see Lin Cheng stepping out of the brush, his eyes cold and mocking. "What do you want, Lin Cheng?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "I can pretend I didn't see anything today." He laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Are you begging for mercy? Normally, the elders protect you, so I don't bother. But you delivered yourself to me. Don't you know? Only the dead keep secrets." Without another word, he lunged, his palm striking toward my chest. I knew I couldn't run anymore. I gritted my teeth, balled my fist, and charged straight at him. "You dare resist?" he mocked. "Let's see how much weight the Lin family's #1 body refiner actually carries." I threw a Manhwa punch, the most basic foundation technique of our clan. Our strikes collided with a dull thud. The impact sent me reeling back 5 steps, my arm throbbing. Lin Cheng didn't budge an inch. "Not bad," he admitted, his eyes narrowing. 2 bulls worth of strength. If you were fighting a normal beginner, you might have one. But your luck ran out. You're facing me. He didn't hold back this time. He gathered his inner energy and unleashed the mountain-splitting palm, a high-level martial technique. The pressure was suffocating. I had no choice but to raise my arms in a desperate block. Crack. The sound of my bones snapping echoed through the clearing. I was sent flying, blood spraying from my mouth. My right arm hung limp at my side, completely shattered. I hit the ground, gasping for air. Lin Cheng walked toward me with a sick grin. "Go in peace, Lin Yu. As for your beautiful aunt, Nangong Yun, don't worry. I'll take very good care of her." Rage boiled in my chest, hotter than the pain. Nangong Yun was the one person I would die for. "If I don't die today," I wheezed, "I will kill you." Still talking nonsense at death's door? Lin Cheng shook his head. "Die." He delivered a brutal kick to my temple. The world went black instantly. "Since we're brothers, I won't finish you myself," I heard him mutter as I drifted away. "I'll let the Mizong woods take you. No one has ever come out of here alive anyway." Then, I felt myself falling. I hit the water with a violent splash. The shock combined with my injuries knocked me out completely. I sank like a stone, drifting down into the dark depths of the lake. I eventually settled on a strange, black circular stone at the bottom. It was covered in mysterious, glowing patterns. As I lay there, unconscious, something impossible happened. The stone pulsed, pushing the water back and creating a dry bubble of air 10 feet wide. A strange, misty light began to seep out of the rock, flowing into my body. After a few minutes, the massive stone shrank until it was tiny, then shot forward, embedding itself directly into my dantian. I don't know how much time passed before I finally opened my eyes. Where am I? I sat up, clutching my head. I'm not dead. I pinched my arm. It hurt. I looked down at my right arm, the one Lin Chung had snapped. It was perfectly healed. I focused inward and gasped. I could feel energy, true martial energy, flowing through my veins. I have energy. I've reached the peak of the martial artist realm. I shouted, my voice echoing in the small underwater bubble. How is this possible? If you couldn't break through after merging with a chaos treasure, you really would be trash. A raspy, ancient voice vibrated in my ears. I jumped, looking around wildly. Who's there? Show yourself. I am the spirit of the sword Jade, the voice replied calmly. You may call me Elder Jian. Sword Jade? What is that? The supreme sword Jade, he corrected. The first chaos treasure born at the dawn of the universe. It consists of two parts, the supreme sword and the jade itself. During an ancient war, the sword was shattered into 7 pieces. Right now, only one fragment remains inside the jade. I have been sleeping for ages, waiting for a new master. He paused, and I felt a strange warmth in my chest. I waited countless years, and finally, you arrived. You possess the innate sword body, a legendary physique. It was dormant, hidden from the world, but the jade has finally awakened it. That is why you can now cultivate. It all clicked. The sudden strength, the healing, the energy, it wasn't a dream. Now, Elder Jian continued, I will grant you the supreme sword scripture. Only this technique can command the power of the jade. A sharp pain stabbed my brain as thousands of words and images flooded my mind. It was overwhelming, complex, and ancient. Is this a high-level manual? I asked, breathless. It is a primordial technique, Elder Jian said. It cannot be ranked by human standards, but it is far beyond anything you would call God tier. I didn't waste a second. I sat cross-legged and began to meditate, lost in the flow of the scripture. When I finally opened my eyes, the light in the cave had changed. This is so deep, I muttered. I've been at it for so long, and I've only mastered half of it. And I'm starving. Elder Jian chuckled. The last master took half a month just to get started. You did half in a single day? Your talent is terrifying. How long have I been down here? I asked, a sudden panic rising. 3 days. 3 days. I scrambled to my feet. Aunt Yin must be worried sick. I have to get back. I plunged through the barrier and swam toward the surface. As soon as I left, the air bubble collapsed, and the secret chamber vanished into the silt. I kicked hard, breaking the surface of the water and gasping for air. I looked around and froze. I was in a valley hidden deep within the woods. Even though it was autumn, the valley was lush and green, filled with blooming flowers and small animals darting through the grass. It was beautiful, but I didn't have time to sightsee. I had a debt to settle with Lin Chung. I had no interest in the scenery. All I wanted was to go home. I looked around, but I couldn't find a way out. This was supposed to be the Mizong Forest, but I was surrounded by mountains with no trees in sight. The name didn't fit the place at all. That's because no one has ever truly been here. Elder Jian's voice echoed in my head. You are the first, and you will be the last. He explained that the jade sword had formed a void formation over the valley. Anyone who stumbled in would usually be sucked into a void crack. Then how did I get in? I asked, stunned. Because you are the successor the jade sword was waiting for, he replied. Now that the jade has recognized you as its master, the formation is about to vanish. The Mizong Forest will cease to exist. Such a massive change will attract powerful experts soon. You need to leave. There's a cave 100 meters to your right that leads out of the valley. I didn't wait. I found the cave, hurried through, and once I was out, I sprinted toward Baimo City. I was a true martial artist now. My speed was on a completely different level compared to when I was just a body refiner. It took me only an hour to reach the city gates. I'm back, I muttered, my voice cold. Lin Chung, I bet you'll be surprised to see me. As I walked through the Lin family gates, the whispers started immediately. That trash actually came back. I thought he died out there. Do you know how many people the family sent to find him? If he hadn't shown up, that crazy woman would have torn the house apart. I frowned but didn't stop. I headed straight for my small courtyard. Aunt Yun, I'm home, I shouted, pushing the door open. Before I could take another step, someone pulled me into a tight hug. It was Nangong Yun. I held her back, breathing in her familiar scent, not wanting to let go. Xiao Yu. Where have you been these past few days? She asked, her voice trembling with tears. I'm sorry, Aunt Yun. I made you worry. I felt a wave of guilt. I found a master. I've been training with him. Look, I can cultivate now. I'm not a loser anymore. I stepped back and released my origin power. Her eyes widened in shock. Am I dreaming? You can really cultivate. It's real, I said firmly. I'm at the peak of the martial artist realm. I'll break through to martial master soon. From now on, I'll be the one protecting you. She smiled through her tears, looking incredibly relieved. Our Xiao you can finally cultivate. If your parents knew, they would be so happy. Don't worry, Aunt Yun, I said, looking toward the horizon. I'll keep working hard. Once I'm strong enough, I'll go to the lost lands and find them. But right now, I'm starving. I really want your braised fish. She gave me a soft, tender look. All right, I'll make it for you right now. She never could say no to me. While I was enjoying my reunion, news of my return reached Lin Chung. What? That trash is back. He slammed his teacup onto the floor, shattering it. The servant reporting to him shook with fear. Lin Chung paced the room, his face dark with rage. Fine. If I can't kill him myself, I'll pay the price to have the Blood Pavilion do it. After dinner, I told Aunt Yin I needed to meditate. I spent the next 2 days locked in my room, fully grasping the supreme sword scripture. Just as I was about to push for a breakthrough to the martial master realm, Elder Jian stopped me. Don't rush it, he warned. Your progress is too fast. Your foundation is weak. A typical peak martial artist has the strength of 9 bulls. A genius at that level has the strength of 1 tiger, or even 2. You have the strength of 1 tiger now, but you can do better. I understood. I suppressed the urge to break through and focused on stabilizing my power. As I ran the technique, the surrounding energy rushed toward me like a whirlpool. Outside, Nangong Yun watched my room with concern. It had been 2 days. Suddenly, she felt the energy in the air surging toward my door. What kind of technique is he practicing? She whispered. My family's profound ice art is top tier, but even it doesn't cause a disturbance like this. His master must be incredible. When I finally finished my session, Elder Jin spoke again. Kid, don't use that technique in public. It absorbs energy too fast. People will get jealous, and that leads to trouble. For now, focus on your foundation. You need combat skills. The ones I have are too high level for you right now, so go to your family's library and pick something basic. I agreed. I needed to learn how to actually fight. When I stepped out of my room, Aunt Yin was already there. Hungry? I'll go cook, she said with a smile. She always knew what I needed. As she walked toward the kitchen, she added, by the way, don't run that cultivation technique so recklessly elsewhere. It causes too much of a stir. I froze. Even she noticed? Your aunt is not simple, Elder Jin remarked. An ethereal body, practicing the profound ice art. She's a descendant of Nangong Yongya. My mother rescued her years ago. I replied internally. I don't know her past, and she doesn't talk about it. To me, she's just Nangong Yun, the person I care about most. But what's an ethereal body? It's one of the 10 great saint physiques, Elder Jian explained. It's on par with your innate sword body. In some ways, it's even stronger. I don't know what the Nangong family is thinking, giving someone with that physique the profound ice art. It's a waste. It shouldn't be that rare for a family like the Nangong clan. Elder Jian continued. No wonder she's only reached the martial king realm in her 20s. With the right technique, she could have been a martial saint by now. A martial king, I repeated, my mind reeling. You're saying Sister Yun is a martial king expert? Is it that surprising? Elder Jin asked. She has an ethereal body. It's known as the fastest cultivation physique in existence. She has a natural affinity for the laws of space. If nothing goes wrong, she's guaranteed to become a martial god in the future. I felt a surge of excitement. Elder Jian, do you have a cultivation technique for an ethereal body? I do, he replied. I'll pass it to you, and you can give it to her later. Such talent shouldn't be wasted. Once she grows stronger, she'll be a massive help to you. A flood of information hit my mind. The myriad transformations void scripture. It was a god-tier, high-grade technique. Holy crap, Elder Jian, I whispered. You're just handing out god-tier techniques like candy. I gave you the supreme sword scripture, didn't I? He countered, his voice turning serious. I'll give you the techniques you need, but the rest is up to you. Relying on me too much won't help you grow. The experts at the top of this world all fought their way there. I understand, I said. I knew he was right. Success wasn't something handed out for free. After lunch, I didn't give the scroll to Nangong Yun immediately. Instead, I headed straight for the family's library pavilion. Look at that trash, a voice sneered as I walked by. Is he going to the library? Doesn't he know you can't enter unless you're an official martial artist? Let's follow him. This should be funny. I ignored them and stopped in front of an ancient, weathered building. The words library pavilion were carved into the wood. As I moved to step inside, a sharp shout stopped me. Halt. This is a restricted area. No entry for those below the martial artist rank. I turned to see the library elder. Word was, he was the strongest person in the family besides my grandfather. He had guarded this place for 30 years. Greetings, elder, I said, bowing respectfully. The elder looked at me and sighed. Lin Yuan, you aren't a martial artist. Even if I gave you a technique, you couldn't practice it. Go home. His tone softened when he saw my polite attitude, but he was firm. Elder, I have already broken through, I said. I didn't argue. I just released a burst of my origin power. What? The elder's eyes widened. You're at the peak of the martial artist realm? He had assumed, like everyone else, that I was a born failure. He hadn't even bothered to look closely at my cultivation. Now that he did, the truth was undeniable. What the hell am I seeing? A disciple nearby gasped. The trash is a martial artist? And at the peak. Pinch me. This can't be real. Ow. You actually pinched me. It's true, he really did it. I can't call him trash anymore. Another boy muttered, looking pale. His cultivation is higher than mine now. I'm the trash. I saw the fear in their eyes. They had spent years mocking me. Now, they were terrified I'd come for revenge. I just shook my head. Their opinions didn't matter to me anymore. Elder, may I enter now? I asked. Oh, yes, the elder said, blinking back his shock. But only the first floor. You can pick 1 cultivation technique and 2 martial skills. Thank you, elder. I walked inside, feeling the weight of the stairs on my back. In this world, strength was the only thing that bought respect. It's good that you realize that. Elder Jian's voice echoed in my head. Outside this city, the world is even more ruthless. The first floor was filled with rows of shelves. I skipped the sections on history and alchemy. I already had the Supreme Sword Scripture, so I didn't need a new cultivation method. I went straight to the martial skills. The shelves were categorized by grade. Yellow grade low, mid, and high. Most people struggled with higher grade skills because they required more origin power and higher comprehension. But with my innate sword body and Elder Jin's guidance, that wasn't an issue. I scanned the high grade shelves. Silver Moon Blade, 9 Mountain Sword, Flying Cloud Steps. Then, I saw a tattered manual tucked away in a corner. It was missing pages. It only had the first move, but that single move was rated at the top of the yellow grade. That one, Elder Jin said. The Heaven-Slaying Sword Script. It's incomplete, but it's powerful. Take that, and the Flying Cloud Steps. I took his advice and added a basic fist technique to the pile. I walked back to the entrance and presented the 3 books to the elder. Elder, I'm skipping the cultivation technique. I've chosen these 3 skills instead. The elder looked at the titles and frowned. Lin Yuan, I suggest you swap the Heaven-Slaying Sword Script. It's incredibly difficult to learn. Many have tried, and all of them wasted months before giving up. I can recommend something better. He took a sip from a wine flask, his expression serious. Thank you for the warning, Elder, I said with a smile. But I'd like to try. If I can't do it, I'll bring it back. The elder sighed, leaning back in his chair. Fine. You're just as stubborn as Lin Jinan. You'll only learn once you hit a wall. Bring them back in a month. I thanked him and headed home. As soon as I got to my room, I locked the door and pulled out the first book, Tiger Fist. It was time to see what I was really capable of. I sat down and began to read with intense focus. It only took me an hour to fully grasp the mechanics of the Tiger Fist. The technique was divided into 3 distinct moves: Tiger descending the mountain, Tiger emerging from the cage, and Tiger breaking teeth. I walked out into the yard, replaying the first move in my mind. It consisted of 9 intricate positions. At first, I moved slowly, making sure every limb was in the right place. Then, I picked up the pace. My movements became a blur as I practiced for another hour without stopping. A loud crash echoed through the air. I looked down and laughed. The stone bench next to me was shattered into pieces. I had already reached the level of minor mastery. If the other disciples knew, they would be terrified. Most people took 3 days just to learn the basics, but I had reached minor mastery in just a few hours. My innate sword body was truly a cheat code. My sister, Nangong Yun, stepped out of the house, looking at the debris with a raised eyebrow. She asked me if I was practicing or just trying to demolish the house. She told me to go to the martial arts field if I wanted to break things. I scratched my head, feeling a bit embarrassed, and promised it wouldn't happen again. She rolled her eyes, told me to clean up the mess, and went back inside to start dinner. After we ate, I returned to my room to study the other 2 manuals. The flying cloud steps was a movement technique with 4 stages: entry, small success, great success, and perfection. At entry level, I could leap 3 meters. By perfection, I'd be able to glide through the air for 100 meters. Then there was the heaven-slaying sword script. It was brutal. The first move was called Mountain Splitter, the second was Ground Sweeper, and the third was Heaven Slasher. 2 days passed in a flash of sweat and steel. I stood in front of a massive boulder and swung my sword. The blade whistled through the air, and the rock split into several clean pieces. I had finally reached the entry level for the Mountain Splitter move. The power was incredible. I felt like I could take down a low-level martial master with a single strike. However, the cost was high. Even with my high-level cultivation technique, I could only use that move 5 times before my internal energy was completely drained. Elder Jian's voice echoed in my head, noting that the energy drain was normal. He told me that anyone else using a technique of this caliber would be empty after just 1 swing. I told him I felt ready to break through to the martial master realm. My Tiger Fist was near great success, and my movement technique was solid. He agreed, telling me we could start the breakthrough tonight. He also promised to teach me alchemy once I succeeded. He explained that my cultivation method required several times more energy than a normal person's, so I would need pills to bridge the gap. I asked why I had to wait until I was a martial master. He explained that alchemy required liquid energy to sustain the refining process. He also mentioned that becoming an alchemist was rare, requiring immense soul power and high affinity for fire and wood elements. Since my scripture covered all attributes and I had the innate sword body, I met the requirements. As for soul power, he simply tossed a new technique into my mind, the Great Freedom Heart Sutra. It was a divine-grade soul cultivation method created by ancient masters. I was stunned. In this city, a manual of that level was unheard of. Elder Jin just scoffed, saying he didn't bother remembering anything below heaven grade. He told me to practice it at night instead of sleeping. I couldn't help but think the old man was the ultimate show-off. As the sun began to set, I headed back inside. Nangong Yun was waiting for me with a warm meal. I told her she didn't have to wait for me to eat, but she just smiled and watched me bolt down the food. After dinner, we sat in the yard drinking tea. I pulled out a stack of papers I had prepared. I had written down the universal void scripture for her. I handed it over, and as she read, her eyes widened. She was completely absorbed. After a long silence, she looked up, breathless. She asked where I got a divine-grade technique that perfectly matched her void spirit body. I lied and told her my master had seen her and decided her talent shouldn't go to waste. I kept Elder Jin a secret, not because I didn't trust her, but to keep her safe. She was so excited that she immediately ran to her room to start practicing. I watched her go, smiling at how her usual calm elegance had vanished the moment she saw the manual. I went to my own room and began to circulate the Great Freedom Heart Sutra. The house fell silent as we both dove into our cultivation. But outside, the shadows were moving. A figure wearing a ghost-faced mask landed silently in my yard. It was an assassin from the Blood Building, and they were coming for my life. The assassin perched on my roof, his face hidden behind a terrifying red ghost mask. He muttered to himself, complaining that sending a Black King-level killer for a mere cultivator below the martial master realm was a blow to his reputation. He only took the job because the payout was massive. Lin Yuan, wake up. Someone is here, and they aren't friendly. Elder Jin's voice cut through my meditation, sharp and urgent. I snapped my eyes open. A a cold light flickering in my pupils. My first thought was Lin Chung. Had that bastard sent someone already? It's a professional, Elder Jin warned. A high-level expert at the Marshal General rank. Get to your sister immediately. She's too deep into the universal void scripture to notice him. I bolted upright and flung my door open. I ran straight into the assassin's gaze. He hadn't expected me to walk out on my own. He let out a sinister laugh, his voice like ice. Are you Lin Yuan? Elder Jian, what do I do? I whispered, my brow furrowing. I can't fight a marshal general. If things get ugly, relax your body, the old man replied calmly. I'll take control. Knowing I had a backup plan, I calmed down. I looked the masked man in the eye. Who are you? The man who's here for your head, he sneered. Lin Cheng sent you, didn't he? I said, my voice turning cold. I haven't gone looking for him yet, but it seems he's impatient to die. I won't be letting him live after this. The assassin chuckled. I don't know who you're talking about, but I'm surprised you're so calm. Do yourself a favor and kill yourself. It'll save me the trouble and you the pain. If you want me dead, come and try, I challenged. He didn't waste another breath. He lunged at me like a bolt of lightning. Elder Jian, he's all yours. I shouted internally. Actually, I don't think I'll be needed, Elder Jian remarked. Before I could process what he meant, a teacup flew out of Nangong Yun's room. It moved with such force it whistled through the air. It slammed into the assassin's chest with a sickening thud. The Black King, who had looked so unstoppable a second ago, coughed up a spray of blood and flew backward. He crashed into the courtyard wall, leaving a web of cracks in the stone. He clutched his chest, gasping for air. A master? How did the blood building miss this? The door to my sister's room creaked open. Nangong Yin stepped out, her white dress fluttering in the night breeze. She rushed to my side, her eyes full of panic. She started checking my arms and chest, her hands trembling. Xiao Yuan, are you hurt? Did he hit you? Sister Yun, I'm fine, I said, grabbing her hands to steady her. You got him just in time. She let out a long breath of relief. Then, realizing I was holding her hands, a faint blush crept onto her cheeks. She quickly composed herself and turned toward the assassin. In an instant, her warm, gentle aura vanished. She looked like a completely different person, cold, sharp, and deadly. Blood building, she said, her voice dropping to a freezing temperature. It seems your branch in 100 Mill City wants to be wiped out. The assassin's face went pale. A martial king? How can the tiny Lin family have a martial king? Who placed the hit? Nangong Yin demanded. Tell me, and I might let you live. I stared at her, stunned. This was my kind, gentle sister? The woman who wouldn't hurt a fly was now standing there with the aura of a cold-blooded executioner. Kill me if you want, the assassin wheezed. The blood building has rules. We don't talk. Sister Yun, don't bother, I said, narrowing my eyes. I already know who it was. She glanced at me, then turned back to the man on the ground. If I don't need you for information, then you're useless. Die. She flicked her wrist. A beam of raw energy shot from her fingertips, piercing the assassin's forehead before he could even blink. He slumped over, dead instantly. A martial king, I whispered. A martial general didn't even stand a chance. The gap between a general and a king is a massive watershed, Elder Jin noted. It's far greater than the jump you're about to make. Nangong Yun turned back to me, her face softening into its usual elegance. She looked shaken. I'm so glad I hadn't fully started the technique transition yet, or I wouldn't have sensed him. Xiao Yuan, who wants you dead this badly? I decided it was time to tell her. I explained what happened a few days ago, how Lin Chung had betrayed me. I left out the part about the Supreme Sword Domain, telling her instead that my master had rescued me from the depths of the Mist Forest. What? Her face turned white with rage. Why didn't you tell me sooner? It's okay, Sister Yin. I'll handle Lin Chung myself. Don't worry, I'm back now. Honestly, I should thank him. If he hadn't pushed me, I never would have met my master or regained my ability to cultivate. I took her hand again, trying to soothe her anger. She reached up, her palm resting against my cheek. Her eyes were filled with tears. I'm just so glad you're safe. I don't know how I would live without you. Seeing her like that, I couldn't hold back anymore. I pulled her into a tight hug, burying my face in her shoulder. When I was falling into that abyss, I thought I'd never see you again. But the heavens weren't ready to take me yet. Sister Yin, I don't want you to be my sister anymore. She stiffened in my arms, her heart racing against mine. If I'm not your sister, what do you want me to be? My throat went dry. I was terrified, but I forced the words out. I want you to be my wife. I love you. I want to marry you. She trembled. Her face turned a deep shade of crimson. You little brat, she teased, though her voice was shaky. You're only 17 and you're already thinking about a wife. I'm not a kid, I argued, holding her tighter. Second uncle's son had a kid at 16, and I don't care about the age difference. Once our cultivation is high enough, we'll live for hundreds of years. A few years apart is nothing. She leaned her head against my shoulder and gave a soft, quiet hum of agreement. Is that a yes? I asked, a huge grin spreading across my face. Dummy, she whispered, laughing through her shyness. Do I really have to say it out loud? I let out a shout of joy and picked her up, spinning her around in the courtyard. We stayed like that for a long time, just enjoying the quiet night, until she finally pulled away. She needed to return to her room to finish her breakthrough now that she had mastered the new scripture. I went back to my own bed and sat cross-legged. My eyes were determined. Elder Jian, it's time, I whispered. I'm too weak. I need to break through to the martial master realm right now. I need to master alchemy. I need to get strong, fast. Yes, your strength is a bit low, Elder Jian said, his voice sounding unusually complex. It's time to break through. There isn't much time left. Not much time? What do you mean? I asked, startled. Nothing. You'll understand in the future. Just focus on the breakthrough, he replied, offering no further explanation. I sat cross-legged and began circulating the supreme sword scripture. Even though I wasn't pushing it to its full limit, the spiritual energy within a 100-meter radius rushed toward me like a tide. Inside my dantian, a massive transformation was underway. The central cyclone spun violently, rotating more than 10 times every second. As I pulled in the energy, it began to liquefy. 1 drop, 10 drops, 100. When the count hit 300 drops of liquid yuan force, my entire aura shifted. I felt a surge of power wash over me. Finally, I whispered, a smile tugging at my lips. I've reached the martial master realm. I looked inward at my dantian, feeling confident. Elder Jian, I have 300 drops of liquid force at just the first star of the martial master realm. That's way beyond a normal cultivator, isn't it? It's several times more, Elder Jian said calmly. A typical breakthrough usually yields about 100 drops. You have triple that, and the purity is much higher. With your current strength, an ordinary early-stage martial master is no match for you. But remember, this means your future breakthroughs will be even harder. You'll need several times more energy than anyone else. Now that I've broken through, can you teach me alchemy? I asked eagerly. I'll pass the formulas to you now. Prepare the herbs tomorrow. As soon as he finished speaking, a flood of information filled my head. Pill formulas, hand seals, and intricate refining techniques. I spent the rest of the night practicing the Great Freedom Heart Sutra. When morning came, I didn't feel a hint of exhaustion. My mind was sharp, and my body felt overflowing with power. I walked out into the courtyard and saw Nangong Yun watering the flowers. She looked up and smiled softly. You're up? Go wash up and come have breakfast. Morning, Sister Yun, I said, giving her a mischievous grin. She caught the look in my eyes and the way I said her name. She knew exactly what I was thinking. She rolled her eyes playfully and blushed. Hurry up and eat. After breakfast, I told her I was heading out to the market. I needed to buy supplies to start my alchemy training. As I walked through the Lin family estate, the atmosphere was different. The servants who used to ignore me or sneer behind my back were now bowing and greeting me with respect. I just nodded coldly. I knew how the world worked. They were only being nice because I was no longer a useless failure. I didn't have time to waste on small-minded people. Meanwhile, in another part of the estate, Lin Chung was losing his mind. What? Lin Yuan is fine. How is that possible? He glared at his servant, his face twisted in rage. The blood building promised me they'd strike last night. Did something go wrong? He couldn't wait any longer. If I kept growing at this rate, he was a dead man. I'm going to the blood building to get answers. They took my money and didn't do the job. He stormed out of the house. I reached the bustling city center. People were pointing and whispering as I passed. News of my breakthrough had already spread through the city. I heard a man whisper greedily, "I can't believe that waste actually broke through. He must have found some heavenly treasure." I ignored them and walked straight into the Yahello merchant house, the biggest trading post in the city. A young maid named Xiao Dai recognized me immediately and stepped forward. "Young Master Lin, how can I help you today?" I handed her a list of herbs. "Do you have these? I need 300 sets of everything on this list." She scanned the paper and smiled. "These are common herbs, so we have them in stock. But since the quantity is so high, it might take a moment to gather them all." "That's fine. Just be quick," I said. While she went to fill the order, I wandered around the shop. The place was incredibly luxurious. I stopped at a display case holding a mid-grade Earth-rank weapon. The price tag was 20,000 gold coins. If I sold a God-rank weapon, could I buy the entire Star Luo Empire? I muttered to myself. "Humph." Elder Jin scoffed in my head. "A single God-rank weapon is worth more than 100 Star Luo Empires. But with your current strength, you'd be dead the second you showed it to anyone." I shrugged, knowing he was right. I moved to the pill section. A first-grade body-tempering pill cost 50 gold coins. A second-grade chi-nourishing pill was 200. Then I saw a bottle of rejuvenation powder for 5,000. Alchemy really is a gold mine, I thought, stunned. I only got 200 gold coins a month from the Lin family. "These are just basic pills," Elder Jin noted. "Once you get past the 5th grade, gold is useless. You'll need spirit stones to buy anything." Spirit stones. I remembered something. "Elder Jin, didn't you say I need those to open the first level of the sword domain?" "Correct. The sword domain requires energy to function. So, what does the first level actually do?" I asked, trying to sound sweet. He sighed. "Fine. The first level provides time acceleration. 1 day in the outside world is 5 days inside the sword domain." "What?" I shouted out loud. People turned to stare at me, and I quickly covered my mouth. My heart was racing. 1 to 5? My cultivation speed would be insane. 1 to 5 is decent, Elder Jin said coolly. "But don't forget, you still need the spirit stones to turn it on." "Don't get too excited," Elder Jin said, cutting through my joy. "You're going to need a massive amount of spirit stones to keep that acceleration running." I felt a headache coming on. My wallet was already crying, and I hadn't even started. Fine. I guess I need to find a way to make some serious cash. Alchemy seems like the best bet. "It gets better," Elder Jin added. "If you find more fragments of the Supreme Sword, that time ratio will increase even further." I stood there stunned. "It can go higher? That's just cheating." "Master Lin." A voice broke my trance. It was Xiao Dai, the young maid from the counter. Behind her, several workers were lugging heavy bags of herbs. "Here are the ingredients you requested. That will be 1,500 gold coins." My eye twitched. 1,500? That was more than a year's worth of my allowance. Luckily, Nangong Yun had given me a gold card before I left. I handed it over, then looked around. "Do you sell alchemy furnaces here?" "Of course. Please follow me upstairs," she said. The second floor was much quieter. There were fewer items on display, but I could tell they were far more valuable. Xiao Dai led me to a corner filled with furnaces of all shapes and sizes. "What grade are you looking for, sir?" she asked. "We have everything from the mortal rank." "What are the prices?" "Lower grade mortal furnaces are 10,000 gold coins. Middle grade is 50,000. High grade is 200,000. And top grade is 700,000. I stared at the price tags and realized I was broke. Even with the gold card Nangong Yun gave me, I only had 50,000 coins. After paying for the herbs, I couldn't even afford a middle-grade furnace. "Just show me the lower-grade ones," I said, keeping my face neutral. She explained the materials and heat retention of a few models, but they all sounded the same to me. I picked one, swiped the gold card, a convenient tool issued by the continent's top banks, and settled the bill. I gave the workers my address and headed home, eager to start. At the front gates, I ran into Lin Cheng and his father, Lin Jintian. "That's my uncle. He's always hated my father," Lin Jinan, thinking my grandfather played favorites. Now, he looked at me like I was a piece of trash stuck to his shoe. "Hello, uncle," I said with a fake smile. Then I turned to Lin Cheng. "And cousin, it's been so long. I've missed you dearly." Lin Cheng's face went pale. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. "Yeah, long time no see." I have things to do. Goodbye. He bolted into the house without looking back. Lin Jintian frowned at his son's cowardice, shot me a cold glare, and followed him inside. I watched them go, my smile fading. You think you can run? I muttered. I stayed quiet for days, and you rewarded me by sending assassins. I was going to spare you for Grandpa's sake, but you clearly don't value your life. I went back to my courtyard. Nangongyun wasn't there. Since she started practicing the universal void scripture, she'd been obsessed. She only came out to cook for me before disappearing back into her room. It was a strange change, but I didn't dwell on it. I had work to do. The workers arrived and dropped the furnace and bags of herbs in my room. I spent some time sorting everything out. I had enough ingredients for 100 batches each of body-tempering pills, blood-stanching pills, and bruise-healing powder. 300 attempts, I whispered. I refuse to believe I won't be a rank 1 alchemist after 300 tries. If it were that easy, the world would be crawling with alchemists, Elder Jin remarked. It's the most profitable job, but also the most expensive. Every master started by burning through a mountain of gold. He spent the next hour coaching me on the basics. I sat before the furnace. It was bronze, coated in ice copper to prevent it from exploding under high heat. It had a small window to watch the reaction and a hatch for the herbs. It's a bit flimsy, Elder Jin noted. Good enough for rank 1, but it'll struggle with rank 2. A furnace is to an alchemist what a sword is to a warrior. I know, I sighed. But I'm broke. I'll sell some pills and buy a better one later. Fine. Put your hands on the furnace, he commanded. Run the fire control art I taught you. I pressed my palms against the cool metal. I gathered my internal energy, focusing it until my palms glowed a faint yellow. Suddenly, a spark jumped. The internal mechanism caught, and a tiny flame flickered at the bottom of the furnace. I pushed more energy in, and the fire roared to life. Control is everything, Elder Jian said. To be precise, you must use your soul power. Wrap your spirit around the furnace. Feel the heat. Adjust the energy flow with your mind. I closed my eyes. My soul power was only at the peak of rank 1, but it was enough. I didn't rush to throw the herbs in. I spent the next hour just playing with the fire, making it grow and shrink until it felt like an extension of my own breath. That's enough, Elder Jian finally said, sounding satisfied. Your control is steady. You're ready for the real thing. Let's see if you can actually make something. Would you like the summary of the next segment of the story? I managed to master fire control in just 1 hour. Most apprentice alchemists spend 3 days on that step alone, but I didn't have that kind of time. I decided to start with body-refining pills. I gathered my ingredients: body-refining grass, blood ginseng, poppy flower, and blood-active herb. The body-refining grass was the core, the most important piece of the puzzle. I picked up a stalk of blood ginseng and tossed it into the furnace. I wasn't fast enough. Before I could even adjust the heat, the flames swallowed the herb whole. In a flash, it turned to gray ash and drifted to the bottom of the bronze pot. I scratched my head, feeling a bit embarrassed by the amateur mistake. Focus, Elder Jian said, his voice flat. I took a deep breath and grabbed another stalk. This time, I kept the fire low as the herb entered the chamber. Once it hit the center, I slowly turned up the heat. It didn't matter. A few seconds later, it turned to ash again. The temperature was still too high. I realized I had to melt the skin and then immediately drop the heat to preserve the essence. Sweat dripped down my forehead. Now I understood why alchemists were so rare. This job was exhausting. I went through 30 stalks of blood ginseng, failing every single time, until I finally found the sweet spot. I threw in the 31st stalk. My eyes were glued to the furnace window. My soul power wrapped around the flames, micromanaging every flicker. The skin melted. The internal essence began to liquefy. A moment later, a small pool of red liquid hovered in the center. I had lost some potency to evaporation, but I had done it. I bottled the essence and felt a surge of confidence. I spent the next few hours refining the rest, failing only 6 more times. While I was lost in the heat of the furnace, someone else was losing his mind. In a private courtyard, Lin Chung sat staring at a cold cup of tea, his face pale as a ghost. He had visited the blood building earlier that morning for an update on my assassination. The news was bad. The killer, Black King, had vanished. The mission was a failure. Even though the blood building promised to send more killers, Lin Chung couldn't sleep. He was terrified I would expose his secret, that he had slept with the Great Elder's concubine. If that came out, the Great Elder would skin him alive before I ever got the chance. I have to tell my father, Lin Chung hissed through gritted teeth. He has to save me. He ran to the main hall and collapsed at his father's feet. Lin Jintian looked down at his sobbing son with a frown, disgusted by the display. Lin Chung didn't hold back. He confessed everything. The affair, the blackmail, and the contract he put on my head. A loud crack echoed through the hall. Lin Jintian slapped his son so hard that blood sprayed from Lin Cheng's lip. You animal! Lin Jintian roared, his hands shaking with rage. It's one thing to be a drunkard, but the Great Elder's woman? And then you try to murder your own cousin? If the clan finds out you bought a hit on Lin Yuan, even I can't protect you. Father, please. I don't want to die. Lin Chung wailed on the floor. Lin Jintian sighed, looking like he had aged 10 years in a single moment. Go to the blood building. Cancel the mission immediately. I'll handle the rest. Back at my furnace, I finished the last of the blood ginseng. I had refined 60 stalks, but the mental toll was heavy. My face was white, and my energy was drained. Rest, Elder Jin commanded. Recover your soul and energy now. This is the best time for cultivation. I sat cross-legged on the floor. I practiced multitasking, running the Supreme Sword scripture to refill my dantian, while using the Great Freedom Heart Sutra to heal my mind. After an hour, my energy hit its peak. I felt a slight pop in my core. I was moving closer to becoming a 2-star martial practitioner. Ready? Elder Jin asked. I nodded and moved on to the poppy flowers. I failed 10 times learning their heat tolerance, but once I got it, I cruised through 80 more. The liquid was a milky white, a sharp contrast to the crimson ginseng essence. Then came the blood-active herbs. I failed 20 times there, but I didn't care. I was getting faster. Unknown to me, Elder Jian was privately stunned. He had never seen someone learn this quickly, though he made sure not to tell me and inflate my ego. Now for the main event, Elder Jian said, his tone turning serious. Body refining grass. This is a true rank 1 spirit medicine. The skin is tough. You need high heat to soften it, medium heat to peel it, and low heat to extract the essence. One slip and it's gone. I tossed the grass in. I pushed the flames, but the herb didn't budge. It stayed solid. Higher, the elder prompted. I cranked the heat. A few minutes later, the skin finally softened, but I was a split second too slow in dropping the temperature. The herb turned to dust. I rubbed my nose and tried again. It took 30 more tries and every ounce of my concentration, but finally, a drop of pure green liquid formed. I let out a long, shaky breath. My nerves were frayed from the tension. Good, Elder Jian said, his voice deceptively calm. The extractions are done. Now, we fuse them into a pill. Elder Jian was secretly stunned. He hadn't expected me to succeed after only 30 failures. Extracting the essence of body-refining grass was no small feat. It was a rank 1 spirit medicine, far more volatile than the supplemental herbs I had used before. Every drop had to be perfect. The ratios couldn't be off by even a fraction. Elder Jian warned me to stay focused, and I nodded, pouring the various essences into the furnace one by one. I used my soul power to wrap around the different medicinal properties, keeping them contained. I took a deep breath. I slowly brought the liquids together over a low flame. I was doing 2 things at once, controlling the heat with one hand and monitoring the fusion with my mind. Suddenly, the mixture hissed. I had pushed the fire too hard. The essences exploded and vanished into a cloud of steam. I frowned. I sat in silence for a moment, replaying the mistake in my head. Then, I grabbed another set of ingredients and started again. This time, I adjusted the heat with surgical precision. My soul power surged out, wrapping the liquid so tightly that not a single detail escaped me. Under the constant roasting of the flames, the liquids finally merged. The mixture grew thick and viscous. Finally, 5 perfectly round pills rolled to the bottom of the furnace. I was ecstatic. I threw open the lid and scooped them into my palm. I couldn't stop smiling. I told Elder Jian I had succeeded. He took a moment to recover from his shock, his voice returning to its usual calm tone. He congratulated me. I was officially a rank 1 alchemist. I laughed out loud. From that day on, I wasn't just a cultivator. I was a master of the craft. Elder Jin told me to take a break. He mentioned that someone had been waiting outside for a long time. I assumed it was Nangongyun waiting for me to eat dinner. I had been refining pills for an entire day, so I figured she was getting hungry. I opened the door and stepped out, but I realized my sister wasn't alone. There was an unexpected guest in the courtyard. I recognized him immediately. It was Lin Jintian, my uncle and the father of Lin Cheng. I knew exactly why he had come. I closed my door and gave him a light smile. I asked him what brought him to my small corner of the estate. He didn't beat around the bush. He told me he was there to ask for mercy for his son. He asked me to consider my grandfather's feelings and spare Lin Cheng. I took a cup of tea from Nangongyun and looked at him. My voice was flat as I asked him if he even knew what his son had done to me. Lin Jintian gritted his teeth. He said he knew Lin Cheng had made a massive mistake. Because of that, he promised to destroy Lin Cheng's cultivation himself and exile him to the 10,000 mountains to work the family mines. I stayed silent, my mind racing. I had planned to kill Lin Cheng the moment I was strong enough. He had stayed hidden in the family estate, and I had been too busy with my own training to hunt him down. But my uncle looked desperate. He reminded me that Lin Cheng was still my cousin. He told me my grandfather hated seeing his grandsons fight. If the great elder found out about the internal strife, the whole family would crumble. He asked if I really wanted to destroy the legacy my grandfather worked his whole life to build. I didn't answer right away. I gripped my teacup until my knuckles turned white. Finally, I sighed. I told my uncle to go. I told him to do exactly what he promised, but I made one thing clear. I never wanted to see Lin Cheng again. He looked at me with a complicated expression, thanked me, and walked away. I watched him leave, feeling a strange weight in my chest. I really didn't want to let Lin Cheng off the hook. But the thought of my grandfather, the man who had raised me with such love, made my heart soft. Kindness had won over my hatred. Nangongyun stepped up beside me and pulled my head into a hug. She told me not to worry about it. She said that losing his cultivation and being sent to the mountains was a fate worse than death for someone like him. I wrapped my arms around her waist. I told her I had wanted to handle it myself, but my uncle's words got to me. I realized that in a way, I should thank Lin Cheng. If he hadn't tried to ruin me, I never would have met Elder Jian. I would still be the useless failure standing in her shadow. She squeezed me tighter. She told me I wasn't a failure and that I would always be her Lin Yuan. I felt a surge of emotion. I pulled back and looked at her, then suddenly pulled her onto my lap. She blushed a deep crimson, looking at me with wide, shy eyes. I couldn't resist. I leaned in and kissed her. She closed her eyes and gripped my waist as I felt her soft lips against mine. When we finally pulled apart, she buried her face in my chest like a shy kitten. I held her close, letting all my worries fade away into the quiet night. After spending some time with Nangongyun and eating dinner, I went back into my room. I had work to do. With the afternoon's success fresh in my mind, my confidence was at an all-time high. I channeled my energy into my palm and sparked the furnace. My movements were fluid and practiced. I spent the entire night refining. By the time the sun started to rise, I had turned all my materials into body-refining pills. I had failed a few times, but for a beginner, my success rate was incredible. I counted them up. 320 pills. Each one was worth 50 gold coins. That was 16,000 gold coins in total. I stared at the jade bottles, my eyes practically turning into gold coins. I was lost in a daze of wealth until Elder Jian snapped me out of it. He told me to stop being greedy and get to work on the golden wound pills and green jade pills. I shook off the distraction and started again. The golden wound pills were easier than the body-refining ones. My speed increased. In just half a day, I finished 100 batches. I only failed about 10 times. By the end, I had 450 pills. I was exhausted. My internal energy was nearly gone, and my soul power was drained to the limit. I sat cross-legged on the floor and meditated for an hour. Once I felt my strength returning, I didn't even stop for food. I went straight into the next round. The green jade pills were rank 1 medium grade, a step up in difficulty. But since my soul power was already on the verge of reaching rank 2, it wasn't a problem for me. By evening, I had finished those as well. I was moving faster and faster, mastering the heat and the herbs with every breath I took. By the end of my refining session, I had mastered the technique. I was processing multiple sets of herbs at the same time. During my first few tries with the body-refining pills, I couldn't manage that, but now it was second nature. I looked at the mountain of jade bottles on the table and grinned. 320 body-refining pills, 450 golden moon pills, 420 green jade pills. That's so much money, I whispered, my heart racing. You're getting ahead of yourself over some rank 1 pills. Elder Jian's voice echoed in my head, cold and unimpressed. Once you reach rank 2 or 3, a single pill will be worth more than this entire pile. I curled my lip. He was right, but I was still poor. I looked at the massive jars and realized a new problem. Carrying all of this to the market was going to be a nightmare. You can store them in the sword prison, Elder Jian said casually. I froze. What? The sword prison is a storage space. It's actually a vast world, he replied. You're too weak to enter it physically, but you can put inanimate objects inside. Elder Jian, why didn't you tell me sooner? I shouted in my mind. I forgot, he said simply. I nearly face-planted onto the floor. He forgot? I took a deep breath and asked how to do it. He explained that I needed to wrap my soul power around the items and create a connection to the prison. I followed his instructions, and in the blink of an eye, the table was empty. The pills were gone. I projected my consciousness into the Dandan area where the sword prison rested. A massive, dark space appeared in my mind. My soul power could only reach about 100 cubic meters. Beyond that was a thick, impenetrable mist. I saw my pills tucked neatly into a corner. How big is this place really? I asked. It's a small world, Elder Jian said. You'll find out when your cultivation is high enough. Stop worrying about that and focus on finding the other 7 supreme sword fragments. Then, he went silent. I rolled my eyes. After all that refining, I felt my cultivation peaking. I was on the verge of a breakthrough, and my soul power was almost at rank 2. I walked out of my room and saw Nangong Yun in the courtyard. She was reading and sipping tea, looking as elegant as ever. I walked over and sat beside her, wrapping my arms around her slender waist. She blushed, giving me a helpless look. Xiao Yu, have you been studying alchemy in there for the last 2 days? She asked. I have, I said, tilting my head up like a proud rooster. I'm officially an alchemist now. She looked at me with doubt. An alchemist already? It's only been a few days. Did you actually finish a pill? I didn't say a word. I reached into the air and pulled out several jade bottles. She wasn't surprised by the storage trick. She figured my master had given me a ring or a bag, but she was stunned when she opened the bottles. Body refining pills, and the quality is incredible, she whispered, a beautiful smile spreading across her face. She checked the other bottles, and when she saw the green jade pills, she looked like she had won a lottery. Our Xiao Yu has really grown up. I pulled her closer into a tight hug. Sister Yin, I'm not a kid. Stop treating me like one. She laughed softly, cupping my face with her hands. Fine, fine. You're a man now. But Xiao Yu, if I'm ever not by your side, you have to promise to take care of yourself. My grip tightened. My heart skipped a beat. Why are you saying that? Are you leaving me? No, she whispered, looking down. I just mean, you can cultivate now? You won't stay in Baimo City forever. A shallow pond can't hold a true dragon. I couldn't see the sadness in her eyes, but I felt her trembling. I won't leave you behind. Wherever I go, you go. We're never staying apart. We held each other for a long time. She hugged me back with a desperate strength, as if she knew her time was running out. The next day, I headed back to the Jello merchant house. Xiao Dai, the same attendant from before, greeted me. Do you buy pills here? I asked. We do, she said, looking at my empty hands. Do you have some to sell, young Master Lin? Let's talk somewhere private, I said. She led me to a VIP room. Once the door closed, I waved my hand, and the table was suddenly covered in bottles. Xiao Dai gasped, her eyes wide at the sight of my storage ability. She checked a few bottles and told me to wait. A few minutes later, she returned with another woman. I froze. The newcomer wore a deep red, low-cut dress that left very little to the imagination. She was stunning, with a face that could charm the soul out of a man. Young Master Lin, this is our manager, Miss Yafeng, Xiao Dai introduced. You can go, Xiao Dai. I'll handle this, Yafeng said, her voice like silk. She sat across from me and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. I've heard so much about you, young Master Lin. It seems the rumors were wrong. You mean the rumors about me being a useless waste? I asked with a smirk. She chuckled, a sound that made my blood run hot. If you are a waste, then the rest of the Star Luo Empire is trash. A 17-year-old martial master is rare, but an alchemist? That's special. I felt a surge of heat in my gut. This woman was a natural enchantress. I quickly recited a heart-calming mantra in my head to stay focused. Let's get to business. Of course, she said. She leaned forward to open the bottles. As she bent over, I couldn't help but stare. The view was distracting, to say the least. What a vixen, I muttered under my breath. She heard me. She didn't get angry. Instead, a small, knowing smirk played on her lips. She knew exactly what she was doing. Body refining, golden wound, and green jade pills, she noted. High quality. Freshly made, too. If the city knew the waste of the Lin family was actually a talented alchemist, they'd lose their minds. Just give me a price, I said, trying to stay professional. And I need 100 sets of the materials on this list. I handed her a paper. It listed the ingredients for chi-augmenting and chi-gathering pills. The real training was just beginning. Yifeng scanned the list of medicinal herbs I gave her. Her eyes flickered with a sudden, sharp interest. I knew what she was thinking. She probably assumed I was just a beginner, a first-grade alchemist at best. But this list changed everything. Chi-augmenting pills were high-tier first-grade medicines, and chi-gathering pills were at the very peak. Their difficulty was almost on par with second-grade pills. Wait here, she said, her voice dropping the playful tone for a moment. I'll have someone prepare these immediately. She was efficient. It didn't take long before she returned to the VIP room. With a casual wave of her hand, several heavy bags of herbs appeared on the floor. My eyes narrowed. Storage equipment. Even in the Lin family, we didn't own a single spatial ring or bag. This woman was definitely more than just a manager at a local branch. Young Master Lin, everything is here, she said, regaining her composure. The total comes to 5,200 gold coins. Let's call it 5,000 even. After deducting the cost from the pills you sold me, you have 3,200 gold coins left. She handed me 2 cards. One was a standard gold card, but the other was a deep purple gold. I looked at it, confused. Yifeng gave me a sultry smile. That is our Yahello Merchant Guild's purple gold VIP card. It gives you a 15% discount on all purchases. I don't give these out often, Lin Yuan. Even in the imperial capital, very few people hold one. She was betting on my potential. I appreciated the gesture, but I didn't want to be indebted to her charms. Don't call me young master, I said, tucking the card away. I'm just a regular member of the Lin family. You can call me Lin Yuan. Then I'll call you Yuan. Deet, she giggled, her eyes dancing. And you can just call me Sister Yifeng. Fair enough, Sister Yifeng. I'll take my leave. I swept the herbs into my own hidden space and headed for the door. Come back and visit me soon, she called out behind me. As I walked back through the Lin family gates, I overheard the servants whispering. The atmosphere in the manor was tense. The family competition is in 2 weeks, one servant muttered. I heard the eldest young lady is coming back from the Azure Dragon Academy in the capital. She's been gone for 2 years. What about the eldest young master, Lin Chung? Another asked. I haven't seen him in days. Chill. Keep your voice down, the first one hissed. I heard from the Patriarch's guard that he committed a huge crime. He's been exiled to the 10,000 mountains. The Patriarch forbade anyone from talking about it. I kept walking, a cold smile forming on my lips. It seemed Lin Jintian was trying to bury the scandal to save face. As for the eldest young lady, a memory of a cold, elegant face surfaced in my mind. Lining. She was Lin Jintian's adopted daughter and one of the few people who never joined in on mocking me when I was a waste. She was also Nangong Yun's best friend. When I reached my courtyard, I heard voices. I stepped inside and saw a white-haired old man sitting at the stone table with Yun. My heart skipped a beat. My eyes stung with sudden heat. Yuan, you're back, the old man said, turning around. His face was weathered, but his eyes were bright. Even though it had been years, he recognized me instantly. Grandfather, you're out of seclusion. I rushed forward, my voice thick with emotion. I am, Lin Yuanshan said, standing up to pat my shoulder with a heavy, proud hand. 8 years of closed-door cultivation, and my grandson has grown into a man. Yin told me your constitution was fixed. You can finally cultivate. Yes, I lied smoothly, repeating the story about my mysterious master. I had a stroke of luck. We sat down, and Yin quietly poured us tea, watching us with a soft smile. We talked until the sun went down, catching up on everything I had missed while he was away. We even broke out some wine. I never had much of a head for alcohol, and after a few cups, the world started spinning. Yin had to help me back to my room while my grandfather headed to his own quarters. The next morning, I was up at dawn, practicing my fist techniques in the yard. I felt rusty. The alchemy had taken up all my time lately. Elder Jian, my progress feels too slow, I said mentally as I wiped sweat from my brow. Techniques aren't mastered through repetition alone. The elder's voice echoed in my head. You need blood. You need combat. Once this family competition is over, you need to leave this place and experience the real world. I knew he was right. After breakfast with Yun, I locked myself in my room again. I had 14 days until the competition. I spent every waking second at the cauldron. By the 14th day, I was exhausted but exhilarated. The constant strain had pushed my soul power to the middle stage of the second grade. I could now refine second-grade pills with ease. My cultivation had also climbed to the peak of the second-star martial master realm. Look at this, Elder Jian, I said, holding up a glowing Qingyuan pill. A mid-tier second-grade pill. Not bad, right? It's average, he replied flatly. Without pill veins, it's just medicine. Don't get cocky. I rolled my eyes, but I knew he was just being tough. Going from a novice to a second-grade alchemist in 2 weeks was unheard of. Tomorrow is the big day, I muttered. I stepped out into the courtyard to find Yun, but she wasn't alone. A woman stood there, dressed in travel-worn robes, but carrying an aura of sharp authority. It was Lin Ying. Sister Ying, you're back, I said with a grin. Lin Ying didn't answer immediately. She looked at me, then looked at Yun, who was blushing furiously. I sat down next to Yun and casually picked up her teacup, draining it in one gulp. You? Yun gasped, her face turning bright red as she glared at me for the indirect kiss. Lin Ying watched us, a rare, faint smirk playing on her lips. It seems a lot has happened in the 2 years I've been gone. Yin told me you can cultivate now. Just a bit of luck? I said, trying to deflect. Did you come back specifically for the family competition? No, she said, her expression turning serious. The family competition is small stakes. I'm here for the Tri-Clan tournament. Lin Ying looked at me, her voice flat and serious. She explained that this Tri-Clan tournament was different from anything we had seen before. It wasn't just a simple test of strength. It was a turning point for the family's future. I had heard Lin Yuanshan mention the event recently. He talked about it, but he kept the details vague. He never mentioned how much was actually on the line. The rankings matter more than you think, Lin Ying said. Everything came down to the results. The distribution of all the resources surrounding Baimo City depended on where we placed. Mines, land, and influence were all up for grabs. But that wasn't even the biggest news. The Qinglong Academy was sending representatives to our city this year. They were looking for fresh talent to recruit. There were only 10 spots available for the entire region. Those spots would be handed out strictly based on the tournament rankings. If I wanted a future outside of this city, I had to win.